Well, good morning. Today's scripture reading was from 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. I once knew a minister when I was a young pastor who was nearing retirement. His personality was a bit gruff. He had little, if any, tact. Often I would hear other ministers make him the brunt of a lot of their jokes. One of the recurring punchlines I heard more than just a few times was, "Well, how's your prayer life?" I soon came to understand that this brother's response to just about any problem was to ask people how their prayer life was, as if that was the solution to everything. Well, soon he retired, and in a couple of years, he died. I, along with several of the ministers, went to the funeral. As we made our way to the community in which he retired, I once again listened as the other ministers repeated stories, and of course, there was the patented punchline peppering the conversation: "How's your prayer life?" Upon arriving at the church, we found it filled beyond capacity. Several speakers stood during the service and told of the impact that this man had had upon their life and their faith development. As they shared, one thing was consistent with each of them. In one way or another, they each referenced a time in their lives in which they had approached this minister with an issue they were facing, and he bluntly inquired of them, "Well, how's your prayer life?" This time, the phrase was not a punchline, but a witness to a probing question of faith. While Paul's approach is different, his words are no less blunt and direct, just as our minister in our story. In our text for today, Paul states his point quite clearly. He said, "I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for everyone, for kings and for all who are in high positions, so that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and dignity." Paul makes his case for a prayer life that is fairly comprehensive. Isn't it interesting that he encourages prayer not only for those who are a part of the community of faith, but for even those who are in places of power outside the community of faith? These are interesting points to ponder. You see, Paul's point is for Timothy to remember that the primary objective of the people of God is not to win an argument, but to bring people to salvation. This is a good word for us to remember in a season of divisions. There are folks who are on the opposite sides of many political issues. There are those who are on opposite ends of the social spectrum. There's division in the church. There's division over COVID-19. We see these divisions as we find ourselves drawn to one side or another. Perhaps a far better thing for us to do would be to consider a quote from a brother pastor who has long since gone on to glory. Well, how's your prayer life? Consider these questions. When you pray, in what ways do you pray for those who have different views than yourself? How many times a day, or perhaps even a week, do you pray for God to help you bring someone to faith? Question 3. If you could pray to change anything in your life where you are frustrated, what would you ask God to do? Well, have a good day in this new normal, being the church in changing times. God bless you, and go in peace.